For years, Don Knotts and Andy Griffith were the heart and soul of The Andy Griffith Show. On screen, they were the perfect pair. Andy, the calm sheriff, and Don, the hilarious, jittery deputy. Off-screen, they were just as close. They laughed together, worked side by side, and shared a mutual respect for each other. Many called them two peas in a pod, but behind the scenes, not everything stayed perfect forever. One incident changed their friendship for good. So, what really happened between these two TV legends? And what did Andy Griffith say about the whole drama? Join us as we get into all the details, from dirt poor to Hollywood legend. In the early years of The Andy Griffith Show, Don Knotts was the man everyone talked about. As Barney Fe, he stole the spotlight and won multiple Emmy Awards. Fans adored him. But then, out of nowhere, Don left the show after just 5 seasons. It shocked fans, and even more, it shocked Andy. So, why did Don leave? Well, the reason might shock you. But before we get into all the drama, there was Andy Griffith, a shy kid from a small town. Born on June 1st, 1926, in Mount Airy, North Carolina, Andy didn't have much growing up. As a baby, his parents were too poor to buy a crib, so he slept in dresser drawers. When he was 3, his father finally got a job as a carpenter and bought the family a modest home on the working-class side of town. Andy grew up feeling different. He was quiet, unsure of himself, but once he discovered how to make people laugh, everything changed. In high school, Andy threw himself into music and drama. He loved swing music and joined the school's drama club. He became obsessed with swing music and the arts, and began acting in school plays. One man, Ed Mickey, a local church minister and band leader, played a huge role in shaping Andy's future. He taught him how to sing and play the trombone, nurturing his talent all the way through graduation in 1944. That same passion led Andy to perform in The Lost Colony, a play still running today. He spent several summers performing on Roanoke Island, slowly working his way up until he landed the role of Sir Walter Raleigh, a proud moment for any North Carolinian. Andy went on to study at the University of North Carolina in Chapel Hill, where he originally planned to become a Moravian preacher. But music pulled him in deeper. He changed majors, joined the Carolina Playmakers, and starred in operettas like The Mikado, The Gondoliers, and HMS Pinafore. He graduated in 1949 with a Bachelor of Music degree. After college, he taught music and drama at Goldsboro High School. One of his students was none other than Carl Cassell, who would later become a legendary radio announcer. But Andy wasn't done yet. He was just getting started. He began writing and performing comedy monologues, planting the seeds for a career that would eventually make him a television legend. His early career didn't begin in movies or TV, but as a monologist, a performer who told long, funny stories. One of his most famous pieces was What It Was Football. It was a hilarious tale told from the point of view of a clueless country preacher who walks into a football game with no idea what's going on. The sketch was so good that it was released as a comedy single in 1953. By 1954, it reached number 9 on charts. That's right, Andy Griffith had a hit record long before he ever had a hit show. Then came No Time for Sergeants, and everything changed. Originally a 1-hour TV play, No Time for Sergeants aired in March 1955 and starred Andy as Will Stockdale, a wide-eyed country boy thrown into the U.S. Air Force. Audiences loved it. Just a few months later, the story was turned into a full Broadway play, and Andy was once again in the lead. Critics couldn't get enough of him. The New York Times wrote that all Andy had to do was step on stage and look the audience in the eye, and they were his. He was nominated for a Tony Award and won the prestigious Theatre World Award for his breakout performance. In 1958, Griffith brought Will Stockdale to the big screen in the movie version of No Time for Sergeants. That film wasn't just a hit. It was the beginning of a legendary friendship. A young actor named Don Knotts played a nervous corporal, and his chemistry with Andy was electric. This was the spark that would later explode into The Andy Griffith Show. That same year, Andy starred in Onion Head, where he played a U.S. Coast Guard sailor. The movie didn't do well, but it showed Hollywood that Griffith wasn't a one-hit wonder. In 1959, Andy returned to Broadway, starring in Destry Rides Again, a musical based on a Wild West story. It ran for more than a year with over 470 performances. Once again, Andy earned a Tony nomination, this time for Best Musical Actor. He didn't win, but by now, everyone knew his name. From stage to screen, from monologues to musicals, Andy Griffith had carved out a career that felt unstoppable. The beginning of a lifelong friendship. Long before The Andy Griffith Show graced American television screens, before Mayberry became a cultural touchstone, and even before their first film together, Andy Griffith was already a fan of Don Knotts. Prior to becoming the iconic and anxious Deputy Barney Fe, Don Knotts was capturing the imaginations of young radio audiences on one of the earliest juvenile adventure programs, Bobby Benson and the B-Bar-B Riders. This was a revival of a show that originally aired in 1932. It told the story of a young orphaned boy who inherited a cattle ranch in Texas, where he was joined by a band of colorful companions to defend the land against rustlers, criminals, and other outlaws. Don Knotts, although only 25 years old at the time, was cast as Windy Wales, a comical old handyman who frequently told exaggerated tales of his supposed past exploits. This character served as a source of comic relief, and Knotts brought him to life with a wheezy voice and a flair for storytelling. He was deeply nervous during those early radio sessions. "Let me tell you," he said in Andy and Don, "the making of a friendship and a classic American TV show, I was just about as nervous as a person could be and still function. My body ached so much from the entire experience that I thought I was coming down with the flu." Despite his nerves, Knotts' performance was a success. Children adored Windy Wales, who in one particularly memorable episode proclaimed, "Yes sirree fellers, I have killed so many men, the cemetery men made me a partner." When Bobby Benson was ultimately canceled, Don Knotts' path led him to a stage production of No Time for Sergeants, where he was cast alongside a rising Southern comedian named Andy Griffith. During their second day of rehearsal, Knotts stepped outside a stage door and saw Griffith sitting casually on a fire hydrant, whittling. Griffith looked up and asked, "Excuse me, are you Windy Wales?" Don was taken aback. As it turned out, Griffith had been a fan of Bobby Benson for years. During long hours touring the country as a nightclub performer, he often tuned into the radio show and had developed a particular fondness for the character of Windy Wales. The moment he heard Knotts speak, he recognized the voice immediately. And with that simple interaction, one of television's most enduring friendships began. From their earliest days working together, Andy Griffith and Don Knotts shared a unique comedic synchronicity. Knotts' energy was nervous, wild, and expressive, while Griffith was grounded, calm, and soft-spoken. It was a contrast that not only worked, it thrived. Their Southern roots gave them common ground, and their comedic instincts turned every scene into something truly special. In an interview with the Daily News, Griffith described the depth of their bond. "We are more than friends," he said. "I think I am closer to Don than anyone else. We have worked side by side 10 hours a day for years." Their bond ran deep both on screen and off, but that same closeness also gave them cover. While the world saw two wholesome best friends from Mayberry, the truth was, both men were living double lives, cheating on their wives and hiding it from everyone but each other. Cheating together. America fell for their small-town charm. But Andy Griffith and Don Knotts were hiding dark secrets behind the Mayberry facade. To millions of viewers, Andy Griffith and Don Knotts were the picture of pure Southern innocence. Two shy country bumpkins keeping law and order in the sleepy fictional town of Mayberry, North Carolina. But behind the squeaky clean smiles and small-town charm? Total deception. According to a shocking tell-all book, Andy and Don, written by Don's own brother-in-law, Daniel DeVise, the beloved stars used their aw shucks act to fool America, while living scandalous, chaotic lives off-screen. Secret affairs, wild outbursts, jealousy, betrayal. It is all in the book, and it is jaw-dropping. DeVise does not hold back. He claims Andy and Don were sex-crazed womanizers who cheated on their first wives and went on secret double dates with their mistresses, laughing it up in public while keeping the lies away from their families. But that's not all. The book also reveals Andy's terrifying dark side, a fury so intense it had the cast and crew literally afraid for their safety. Most of us were deathly afraid of Andy, confessed George Lindsay, better known as Goober Pyle. Behind closed doors, Andy was a man tormented by inner demons. According to the book, he wrecked hotel rooms, smashed car windscreens, and flew into uncontrollable fits of rage that left people scared. But while a larger percentage of his castmates were scared, there were two people who were never scared of him: Don Knotts and Annetta Corsaw, the actress who played Helen Crump, Andy's girlfriend on the show. Annetta wasn't scared because she was more than Griffith's on-screen love interest. The book says Annetta became Andy's real-life lover almost immediately after joining the cast in 1963. Andy couldn't get enough of Annetta, DeVise writes, quoting one of Griffith's own friends. It was true love. They were closer than anyone knew. But here's the kicker. While Andy was loving up on Annetta, he was in fact still married to his first wife, Barbara. But that did not stop him. He managed to keep the affair hidden while continuing to go on double dates with Don Knotts and his mistress. While Andy was sneaking off with Annetta, Don, married to Catherine Metz, was bedding Lynn Paul, the assistant to Andy's own manager. It was a full-on secret lifestyle until it all came crashing down. Don eventually confessed the affair to his wife. The humiliation ended their marriage in 1966. Meanwhile, Andy and Annetta's affair became one of the worst-kept secrets in Hollywood. At one point, a crew member dressed up as a waiter knocked on Andy's hotel door and caught him and Annetta mid-steamy embrace as a joke. But it exposed what nearly everyone on set already knew. Andy was obsessed with Annetta, so much so that, according to the book, he proposed to Annetta, even though he was still married. At least once, the author claims, possibly 2 or 3 times. She said no. Annetta's brother Jesse later said she just wanted her personal freedom, but she never completely let Andy go. Until her death in 1995, Andy kept her close. From 1987 to 1992, he cast her in guest roles on his hit courtroom drama Matlock. But Annetta was not the only one. Andy also reportedly had a fling with the beautiful Joanna Moore, who appeared in 4 episodes of The Andy Griffith Show. She later married Ryan O'Neal and became the mother of Tatum O'Neal. Though Don and Griffith's relationship was tight, cracks soon began to show. After 5 seasons, Don reportedly walked out. Why? Because he severely felt underpaid, calling his check chump change, while Andy raked in a cool $1 million a year and owned part of the show. But that's not the only reason why Don finally said goodbye. So why else did Don Knotts say goodbye to the show that brought him a wild amount of fame? Keep watching to find out. The real reason Don Knotts left The Andy Griffith Show. When you watch reruns of The Andy Griffith Show, especially during its first 5 seasons, it's almost impossible not to be charmed by the effortless dynamic between Sheriff Andy Taylor and his jittery deputy, Barney Fe. The chemistry was real, warm, and captivating. And when people talk about the show, the name that pops up again and again is Barney Fe. Don Knotts' portrayal of the bumbling yet lovable deputy captured hearts instantly. Don Knotts wasn't just a funny guy, he was one of the greatest comedic actors of his generation. Barney Fe wasn't born out of nowhere. The character was a refined version of a persona Knotts had developed years before, often known as the nervous man. With Barney, that nervous energy was channeled into a character who felt like a hyperactive child trapped in the body of a middle-aged man. He was anxious, twitchy, overconfident, yet emotionally fragile, all while wearing a badge. The result was comedy gold. But it wasn't just the character that made Barney special. It was the way he bounced off Andy. Their friendship wasn't just well-written, it was deeply authentic. Watching them on screen felt like peeking into a real relationship between two men who genuinely cared for each other. That bond gave the show its soul. Andy Griffith himself knew where the laughs were coming from. His role was the steady anchor, the sensible adult. Barney brought the chaos, the tension, and the heart of the show's humor. That balance worked beautifully, but then, 5 seasons in, everything changed. Don Knotts left. The departure created a hole that the show never managed to fill. On the surface, the production remained smooth and professional. The show kept airing, and in fact, its ratings even climbed a bit in the final seasons. But the spark, the thing that made the show magical, was gone. Fans noticed it. They mentioned it at conventions, in letters, and at book signings. Over time, it became universally acknowledged. The show was never the same once Barney left, and the color episodes began. The absence of Barney became symbolic. Saying the show was in color was shorthand for saying it had lost its heart. While still solid and well-made, it no longer had the electric energy it once did. This isn't unique to the Andy Griffith Show. Many television programs see their highest ratings after their creative peak, much like Saturday Night Live did in 1980, long after the original cast had moved on. As for why Don left, it was a mix of timing and assumption. Everyone on the set believed the show would wrap after 5 seasons. Knotts took that seriously and began planning his next move, landing a film deal with Universal. It was a bold and smart career move. At the time, television was still seen as the lower tier of entertainment. Jumping to film was the dream. But when the studio realized how successful the show was, they asked Andy Griffith to continue and offered him a massive deal. Griffith later approached Knotts to see if he'd reconsider. By then, things had become complicated. Knotts had already committed to films, but he was open to staying if he could get a small ownership stake in the show. The two men talked privately about it, just as friends. No managers, no contracts, and that might have been the mistake. Andy hesitated, uncertain about what Don really wanted. The conversation fizzled, and nothing formal came from it. It's likely that Don was only asking for a small share, maybe 5%, but with no clarity or professional mediation, the moment slipped away. Andy said no, so Don walked, and Andy's fury erupted. For the first few years after leaving the show, Don had no regrets. He embraced the movie star life. His mother had always dreamed of seeing him on the big screen, and in the 1960s, making it in film was a major leap. Unlike today, few TV actors successfully transitioned to movies. Don did, and his films turned a profit. In time, though, both Don and Andy came to realize that the Andy Griffith Show had been the highlight of their careers. They came to revere it deeply. But in those early years post-departure, there was no looking back. Don Knotts had moved on, and yet, no matter how successful he became in movies, nothing ever quite matched the magic of Mayberry. The town was never the same without Barney Fe, and television history agrees. Years later, Long after the lights of Mayberry had dimmed, the past still had a hold on Andy. The show was over, but something about Don's absence lingered, and in one strange, unforgettable moment, it even followed him into his dreams. Andy Griffith's scary dream about Don Knotts. In the early days after the Andy Griffith Show ended, Griffith stepped into his next acting project, but his mind wasn't done with Mayberry. One night, during that transition, he had a dream so disturbing it jolted him awake. In it, he had killed Don Knotts. The weight of the dream crushed him with guilt. He woke up shaken, his conscience pounding. He tried to call Knotts, but couldn't reach him. Still rattled, he went to work, shot his scene, and later called his therapist to make sense of what had happened. Griffith knew there had to be a reason for such an intense dream, and as he reflected, the symbolism became clear. It wasn't about Don himself. It was about what Don represented. Griffith realized the dream was a subconscious reckoning with the death of his old self. He wasn't killing his friend. He was killing the character, the identity of Andy Taylor. That small-town sheriff with the steady wisdom and the easy charm was a role he had inhabited for 8 years. Letting go of that persona was more emotional than he had anticipated. And the stress behind the dream wasn't just internal. It was grounded in a difficult reality. After the Andy Griffith Show, he believed he'd sail smoothly into movie roles. 8 years as a beloved TV star felt like a solid launchpad into anything he wanted. But Hollywood didn't roll out the red carpet. The transition wasn't smooth. Projects were slow to come, and when roles did appear, they weren't always the kind he wanted. To stay working, Griffith took on darker characters, playing the heavy, the antagonist. Gradually, casting directors and studios stopped seeing him as a comedic actor at all. In time, he found a new identity in roles like Matlock, which brought him back into the public eye in a different light. Still, he understood the strange nature of television, a place where your past roles can define you more than your talent. Even though he evolved as an actor, the ghost of Andy Taylor lingered in the public imagination. As for Don Knotts, it's unclear whether he ever found out he had been at the center of such a vivid, guilty nightmare. But knowing Knotts himself is no stranger to the emotional weight of acting, it's easy to imagine he would have understood. Maybe he would have even laughed about it. That dream may have been strange, even unsettling, but it spoke to something real. No matter how much time had passed, Don Knotts still mattered to Andy. And when asked about him, Andy didn't hold back. What did Andy Griffith say about Don Knotts? The Andy Griffith Show gave viewers a look at life in a small town. In Mayberry, people were kind and life was peaceful. It was the kind of show that made people slow down and enjoy the little things. In a 1961 interview with The Record, Andy Griffith talked about how the show's simple style was what made it special. The show had only been on for a year at the time, but even then, he knew that its honest and pure feeling was important. Andy Griffith and Don Knotts worked together as Sheriff Taylor and Barney Fe, and their relationship was the mainstay of the show. Those who were a fan of the show often called their relationship a pleasant combination. Even though both were very funny, Andy said the most entertaining thing they did was sometimes doing nothing at all. He said, "We can just do a little bit of that, not too much." He explained that sometimes they would pause the story just to share a fun moment. Those little scenes helped make the show a big success. The stories were good, but the way the characters interacted made it even better. Andy understood that viewers loved the small, quiet moments in Mayberry. All of those simple things added up to make the show special and loved by many. When Don Knotts eventually made the difficult decision to leave the Andy Griffith Show, there was no animosity or rift between them. When Don Knotts eventually passed away in 2006, Andy rushed to his bedside and held his hand during his final moments. That alone speaks volumes. The two were close, even till Don's final breath. Andy was there for Don in the end, just like he had been from the start. But while his friendship with Don stayed steady, his personal life was far more complicated. Andy Griffith's marriage. Most people know Andy Griffith as the calm, wise Sheriff Andy Taylor of Mayberry. But few know the full story of his personal life, a journey marked by love, heartbreak, resilience, and lasting legacy. Andy Griffith's first love was Barbara Bray Edwards, a talented soprano and fellow music student he met while studying at the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill in the early 1940s. While Barbara dreamed of singing opera, Andy was drawn to music and acting. Their passion for performance led them to marry on August 22, 1949. Early in their marriage, they toured together with a musical and monologue act, performing across the country as a team. For over 2 decades, Andy and Barbara seemed like the picture-perfect couple. They built a life together and adopted 2 children, Andy Samuel Griffith Jr., known as Sam, and Dixie Nan Griffith. But like many couples in the spotlight, pressure quietly crept in. Though the details remain private, their marriage ended in divorce in 1972 after 23 years. Still, there was no scandal. The separation was respectful, with both parents remaining committed to their children. Tragically, their son Sam passed away in 1996 at the age of 39 after a long battle with alcoholism and related health complications, including liver cirrhosis. It was a painful chapter in Griffith's life that he rarely spoke about publicly. Barbara Bray Edwards, born August 17, 1926, passed away on July 23, 1980, at the age of 53. Raised in Wilson, North Carolina, Barbara had her own moment in the spotlight. She made a guest appearance on The Andy Griffith Show as a character named Sharon and also appeared as herself on The Sam Levinson Show. Though she became widely known as Andy's wife, Barbara had a quiet talent all her own. After his divorce from Barbara, Andy found love again, this time with Greek actress Solika Kasuto. The pair married in 1973, just 1 year after his first marriage ended. Though they kept their relationship mostly private, it's known that they met through Solika's acting connections. One of the big differences between her and Barbara Edwards is that Solika was not involved with Griffith's career in the same way. Sadly, the marriage didn't last. After 8 years together, they divorced in 1981. This time, too, without public drama. Andy Griffith's final and lasting love came in the form of Cindy Knight. The two met on the set of Murder in Coweta County, and despite their 29-year age difference, he was 56 and she was 27. They actually formed a deep bond. They married in 1983, and Cindy would stay by Andy's side for the rest of his life. Shortly after they married, Griffith was diagnosed with Guillain-Barré syndrome, a rare and severe neurological disorder that left him almost completely paralyzed. It was a frightening time, but Cindy never left his side. Her unwavering support during his recovery earned Andy's deep gratitude and helped forge an unbreakable connection between them. Andy Griffith passed away on June 3, 2012, at the age of 86. His passing marked the end of an era, but the legacy he left behind lives on, not just through his beloved roles in The Andy Griffith Show and Matlock, but also through the kindness and simplicity he brought to millions of viewers. At the time of his death, Griffith had an estimated net worth of around $60 million, accumulated through decades of successful work in television, film, and production. He also owned real estate, including his treasured coastal home on Roanoke Island, North Carolina, a place where he found peace away from Hollywood. Did you grow up watching The Andy Griffith Show? What do you remember most about Sheriff Taylor and the folks of Mayberry? Share your memories in the comments below. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more timeless Hollywood stories. And be sure to click the video on your screen You won't want to miss it.